Environmental law is a real general classification of a broader area of law. Typically, environmental law is thought of as being made up of a regulatory or a public aspect of law, as well as a private or the civil justice system aspect of environmental law. It's going to be sort of the same as any other personal injury case or maybe a motor vehicle case. It's the individual or the entity that is responsible for the damage. In environmental law, that's typically corporations, businesses that run, polluting industries, but it can also be smaller, corporate entities and businesses that work alongside these larger polluters. So you can have multiple defendants, you can have multiple individuals and entities that are liable, and just depending on the state you're in, whether there's joint and several liability, that will kind of dictate whom gets, who you choose to sue and who's involved in the lawsuit. Again, this is very similar to other, traditional tort cases. It can cause personal injury, such as illness, disease. These can be have latent effects, which basically means you could be exposed, year one, and you don't have any symptoms or signs or problems until 10 years down the road. It could also be acute. I mean, there are some circumstances when people are exposed to an immediate high level of some chemical and it causes them to get sick instantly. There's also property damages, which is much more common, and I'll kind of explain that in a moment, but property damages are when, an industry or a company pollutes the air, the water, the soil surrounding your home, and the property values are damaged, are, reduced. That's called diminution in value. The reason property damage cases are a little more common is because personal injury cases due to environmental exposures are very costly and very difficult to prove up in court. Unfortunately, there are many things that are believed to cause or could cause illnesses such as cancer, ranging from environmental exposures and chemicals to genetics, and we don't know how to differentiate between the two. So that makes a lot of the personal injury type environmental cases very difficult because, unfortunately, science hasn't quite caught up and the laws are not on, the injured person's side so much. So it's very difficult to pursue and prove those cases. Well, first and foremost, if you are worried that your health has been impacted, you're getting sick, or, you have some disease, you definitely need to get medical attention. Talk to your doctor because that's, the most important first step. Besides seeking medical attention, you have a couple of options. You can seek out a governmental agency. They're both state agencies, such as in Florida we have the State Department of Environmental Protection, and there's also a federal regulatory body, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. These can be good resources for information and maybe some help, but they're not going to be able to provide you with a lot of substantive help. I mean, they can't preserve your rights if you're concerned about, going after the individual or the business that's, allegedly causing your harm. You're going to need to talk to an attorney so you can secure your rights and make sure that you take the appropriate steps, to go forth with that. No, you don't have to, but I mean that's advisable. You wouldn't go to a cardiologist if you've got a broken arm. I mean, finding an attorney is kind of the same thing. Everyone's got specialties, everyone's got expertise, and especially when it comes down to the issues involved in environmental cases, it becomes just that much more important. In environmental law, you do address a lot of the same issues as far as the law because you're operating under traditional tort principles, but you've got this whole other player that requires some scientific background, some basic understanding of the issues that are complex and sort of unique to environmental law. So pursuing environmental cases requires a certain skill set as well as endurance, because they're long, difficult cases, and they can be financially crippling to an entity if they're not, equipped to undertake those cases. So you need to be very careful and do your homework and, talk to attorneys that basically you got to do the interviewing and see if that's who you want to use and make sure that they fit your needs and you fit theirs.